should be set up to oversee the preparation of that plan. The key things to note are that the governance arrangement, should you agree to proceed, that is proposed here involves iwi representation, and this has been socialised with Ko Wairarapa Tēnei and the 2 iwi authorities and the post-settlement entities. The proposal discusses different arrangements for governance, from an informal working party through to a high-level collaborative governance model with iwi at the table, with a high level of delegations to oversee the preparation and implementation of the recovery plan for the Wairarapa. The key things to note in that are that the governance group is not a doing entity. It is very much a governance entity to make sure that things are on track and implemented, and to work with a future recovery team. We're in a bit of uncharted waters as we wait for national and regional guidance, but as you'll be aware, we are now in transition time from response into recovery under the health legislation that's been passed, and as a result, our EOC is winding up, and the powers that were with the controller are now coming to an end, and a recovery manager needs to be put in place, and that has been done through the CDM structure. And we need to have good alignment with what is coming out nationally and regionally, which is a bit of a moving feast, and I know that causes some uncertainty and potentially some anxiety, but I think if there's one thing we've all gotten used to since March is getting used to the uncertain and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So all of the councils have worked together on this paper, and as I said, it has got support from the iwi to proceed. So I'll hand it over to you, Lynn, Your Worship, in terms of any discussion, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kath. So we'll go to any questions first. Is there any questions of clarity, if you can, that you wanted to raise? Tina and then Chris.
I don't noticed in the document there is no timelines, and I would have thought that with a procedure like this, we would have actually had some timelines in respect of when we were expecting some activity to occur, and there is none. So I see that as a major shortcoming in what has been presented anyway. I'll discuss the other stuff later, but I just thought, well, actually, if it hasn't even got a timeline, to me, it doesn't even meet what I'd expect as normal standards for something like this.
Just for clarification, are you talking about the timelines for the governance group or the timeline for the recovery group?
If this governance group is going to be formed, then I would have expected that there would have been an expectation by the 3 councils for report backs and delivery. So there are none.
Okay. Kath, have you got any comment on that?
The scoping document for the recovery plan is under development, which will have all of the resourcing and timelines involved. The key question is, do you want to do this as a Wairarapa region? And if you do, then this is really setting up the oversight for which the team would report to the committee. Until there is a agreement to work together and to set up some sort of oversight entity, I guess we can say that it would be great to have timelines involved, but if you're not working as the Wairarapa together, we'll be on our own timeline.
Okay, just somebody else. Was it you, Chris, had your hand up?
Yes, I just want to ask on page 121 with the recommendation, point number 2, it doesn't sort of refer there whether we're going for the option 1 or the option 2 model. I mean, which one are we talking about? The one with the stronger delegations or the one with the weaker delegations?
Thanks. The option that is proposed, the terms of reference report, represent the stronger delegation. So the first option. Okay,
and then in the turning to the terms of reference on page 133, it says that this is the recovery committee we're doing the terms of reference for. So are they the terms of reference for the governance group or the recovery committee?
One and the same, Chris. The governance of the recovery.
Yeah, I can see it's just a change in words, Chris, which is slightly confusing, but it refers to the committee.
And then the third point just there is that on the bottom of page 124, I mean, you've said that it won't be a doing body and it will just have oversight. But then on the bottom line, it said the delegations would include the authority to develop and adopt a recovery plan, advocate and engage directly. I mean, they seem to be a lot of doing things to me.
Chris, a lot of it is ensuring that the doing is being done and that the recovery team are doing what and engaging with the appropriate agencies.
Yeah. I'll leave it there. We'll have chances to comment further, but I just find it a really confusing document.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anybody else that had any questions of clarity? Gary?
Thanks, Lynn. Could I say that I'm a bit surprised that right through this report, and also the other day in the Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy Group report, that there's no mention of sport or community groups as part of the recovery plan. I couldn't see them mentioned anywhere, and I'd imagine that they're going to have to be given a hell of a lot of support if this community is going to come together as one. And I just felt that there was something missing there from both those avenues. If there's any reason for that.
No, there's no reason for it. That will be dealt with in the recovery plan. This is not the recovery plan. So, and I take the point on board, and we'll most certainly make sure that that the sports and recreational groups are spoken with.
Lynn, could I just answer that? It's a bit confusing because the very first recommendation talks about having in place a combined Wairarapa recovery plan.
Yes, that's right.
That's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yes, but we're not, this isn't the recovery plan. This is the governance arrangements to oversee the development and implementation of the recovery plan that will be done by a whole group of people who can bring other people in that can work at the community level to bring up as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's clear. Thank you.
Okay, Bex.
It actually says on page 122 that it will unite arts, sport, recreational, DHB, work and income. So it's pretty clear that the intention is there to make sure all those groups, including the ones Gary mentioned, are connected and spoken to.
Thank you, Bex. Is there any other questions of clarity? No. Okay. So we'll I'll look to see if a mover of the recommendations. I think just for clarity that we should note in the recommendations that we put in as per option 1, page 124. And that, just to clarify that. And I'm happy to move the recommendations. Is there a seconder? Thank
happy
you.
to
Seconded by Bex. Okay, so I'll open it up for discussion. I'll go around the table as per the screen that I'm seeing in front of me. So I'll start the top left hand, Graham.
Yeah. Am I muted or not?
No, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm back on my phone. I've got nothing to raise. I'm all for just a unified approach to this. So, no, nothing from me.
Thank you, Graham. Sorry, but the screen's moved a bit. Tim. Tim, you're on mute.
Sorry, first time I've done that. I've got nothing to raise apart from the fact that I support the plan as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Sandy?
Yeah, I support it, Lynn. I know that this is going to evolve, and so I'm keen to get on.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, look, I'm overall supportive. I do worry a little bit, Lynn, about duplication. It seems to me that the Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy Group is looking pretty hard at business groups and whatever, and it's just a little bit of concern for me that there could be a little bit of duplication there, but I think that can probably be overcome. I'm really pleased that on page 124, the report talks about the need for community visioning and planning for the Wairarapa, because I think it's going to be very important that any recovery plan takes the community with it. So I think that's very positive. The one thing I think about probably the most is the government arrangements. I actually think that option 2 is better in the sense that it creates more input from councillors in general, the greater number. I think it's important that councils are kept right up to date with it. So I actually quite like option 2. And on the question of committee membership, I would see advantage actually in having the Greater Wellington Regional Council around the table. And I say that really for the reason that Adrian Staples is a member of that, is our member for the Regional Council. She's a former mayor. She knows Wairarapa really well. And I think she could add something really positive to that committee. So I'd actually like to see Adrian around the table there. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Councillor Fraser-Mailman.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I support the formation of the committee to provide governance and oversight of the recovery team. I think it's essential that the 3 councils are perceived to be working together in this unique time that we face. And we need to have a vehicle to have regional representation. And I don't believe we've got one at the present time. I believe that we need to look at that draft terms of reference, and it needs to be reworded to give a very clear definition of what the role of the governance team is to be, and also the recovery team. If you looked at in the paper with the purpose, the first purpose doesn't mentions the word oversight, but in the draft terms of reference, oversight is not even included in the purpose of that team. So I think that needs to be reworded, and I trust that you and Brent will address that at the first meeting if it takes place. And I also believe, as I've said before, I think an independent chair would be an added bonus.
Thank you, Fraser. Tina?
Yeah, no, look, I'm sticking to my line that this is a unnecessary step in forming a team that will actually lead us to the best recovery that the Wairarapa can have. So my preference is still for a skills-based, small, tight team to oversee the development of the recovery plan. And this is born out of my experience in Christchurch, but actually also goes back to my original experience in Invercargill, when we were losing 400 jobs a month in the early 90s. And we led the charge, and I mean I was instrumental in it, in the charge of economic recovery for Southland at that time. And I am absolutely convinced that having politicians at the table, apart from a liaison with central government, will only slow our recovery down. I want people who will actually work together, understand governance, and can really move the wheels of the Wairarapa to give us that best recovery. So all I see this as a really slow, bureaucratic approach to recovery. I cannot support it in any way, shape or form. It's just back to business as usual by councils thinking that they should be involved in everything. And I've never been strong believer in that. I'm a really strong believer in the best people for the job. And I don't think that we are the best people for the job in this case. And we could have been really, really brave and just got out there and done something. I heard Darren Ponter say the other day that we were ahead of the game in terms of the Wellington region, in terms of delivery of looking at recovery plans, but we're not in terms of the rest of the country. Marlborough has their recovery plan ready to go to be voted on in the next week, I think it is. They started weeks and weeks ago on this, which is what I suggested when this first arose, that we needed to be looking at this from day one. We haven't. And I just think this is just definitely going to slow things up. And so I cannot support it in any way, shape or form.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, as you know, Lynn, because I've had a long discussion with you and I've rung Mike Reid from Local Government New Zealand, I'm really nervous about this, and also I find it, a very confusing document about just what we are trying to set up, and I don't think I could vote for option one. I think it reminds me so much of the WEDS, when we set up WEDS, the Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy. I mean, we used the same argument that there was urgency, so we didn't have to consult with councillors and things. So, to this date, there's never been any consultation from WEDS to councils. The only thing that we knew about the work they were doing when we got a 1 hour session from Steve Mahari and Jeff Henley, which was just, and Steve's a spin doctor, and and we still don't see, really get reports of exactly what they're up to, and I mean, I'm sure they're doing very good work, but the democratic model is that we as councillors are the final decision makers and representing the community. And I hear what Tina's saying, and that you need to have an expert group, but as long as that expert group are responsive and mandated in the end by the community. Tina's idea of a team 26,000 is the guts of all this, and I just think that we by delegating so many powers, we're just washing our hands of what is our responsibility in the end.
Thank you, Chris. Brent.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, look, I take Tina's and Chris's points both on board. My idea is to basically get in and get some stuff done, and obviously keep councillors as up to date and informed as possible as we work through what's going to be a very challenging next few months. So I do support it.
Thank you, Brent. Bex.
I support the recommendation for a number of reasons. One is that there's a line on page 123 which says, given the nature of recovery, it makes sense that any recovery effort is a shared one. I think that's very important, the strength in numbers for the three councils coming together. I think it's also important that we have a single Wairarapa voice to central government, because we still are not completely clear on what measures central government is going to take, and especially whether there might be some region-specific support there. And then once we know what that is, we'll know where the gaps are and the holes that need filling, and we can do that with a Wairarapa focus. I'd have two concerns. One concern is that the time frame for this group needs to be fluid, because we don't really know how long it'll be necessary for. It could be a long time, it could be a short time, but I think we need to remain fluid with the time frame on what's appropriate for this recovery group. And also I think it's very important that the two representatives for Marsden District Council are feeding back to the councillors so that we don't feel we're in the dark. But I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Bex. I'll now go to Ra. Ra, did you have any comment?
I just would like to say that I support the recommendation, and part of that is because of having a critical mass in terms of going to government funders, but also a critical mass in terms of experts that we might, that the responsive team might tap into, and that the governance might direct whoever's doing the management and the operational work to go to as well. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you, Ra. David?
Actually, thank you. I oppose this recommendation. And my reasons are, I just feel it's another bloody council committee. Excuse the expression, but it is another committee. And I have more faith in Dame Margaret's group of highly qualified people who have different experience than going back to councils. This is only my opinion. And also the three councils are already on WED, so I'm more than happy with that. The other problem I find is that the councils are under enough pressure at the moment with COVID and everything like this, and I don't think they need this extra pressure. So I agree with what Chris and Tina have said, and but I will oppose this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Tedo?
Kia ora koutou. I just wanted to really thank everybody for their whakaaro and their thoughts. I definitely do support the recommendation, understanding that there will be some, I mean, we do need to have some flexibility. I think that's one of the understandings that needs to be said here, because this is an ever-evolving document and group. And I will also say this, when we place purely a recovery plan that's based on economic values, it does not serve our community well, because we also have to understand that there is an environmental impact, social impact, and that is definitely what WEDS does not address for us, and have an equity at this table too. So yes, I support the recommendation. I really want to get on with it, really. Let's just get on with it. We're already putting the motion in place. There's already people out there, and some very skilled people out there that are doing the do already. So let's get on with it, people, and let's move. There is the flexibility to evolve and change as we go. This is not going to stop. And there is absolutely, the impacts are going to be felt for years, if not generations. So let's get on with it. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you, Tito. I think I have covered everybody. Yes, I'm pretty sure I've gone round the screen. Look, just picking up a couple of points, and I think accepting the concerns that some of you have around this is just really the assurance that the feedback will come back. If the recommendation is passed, Brent and I give assurance that we will keep everybody informed. This group, and it's right through here, is, and I think it was Gary that picked up the point about community-led, and this is, a lot of this work is what the recovery team are going to be doing. There is also an indication in here, and it may be appropriate, I think it says on page 127, for an independent chair to be appointed, and also some other people with specific knowledge and skills. So I think, as Tito has said, this is a moving feast, and I think Kath, our Chief Exec, alluded to that as well. It is a moving feast, but we have to show some leadership to our community now. The recovery team have been doing a lot of work on the recovery plan, and they want to get it out and get on with it. There was one other thing, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. I think the point about the Greater Wellington Regional Council, Wairarapa representative Adrian Staples, I think that was also alluded to in the paper, and that is most certainly something I think that we will look at moving forward. I think what I'm really excited about as well is working alongside and with the Ko Wairarapa Tēnei and their reset plans. I'm quite excited about what that's going to look like and how we're going to work together. So I see this as a really great opportunity for our communities as we move forward in this oversight role. So having said that, and taking the points on board, I've moved the recommendations, noting that with a change to number 2, that it be option 1, which is on page 124. With that addition into that recommendation, I'm going to, Bex, you're happy with that alteration, given that you raised it with me initially? Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. So I'm going to put the motion, and if everybody, when I put the motion, if you could raise your hand and leave it up so I can count the numbers, please. And Harriet can count the numbers. Okay, then all those in favour of the recommendations on page 121, please raise your right hand. Is there 7 or 8? Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
8.
6, 7, 8. Okay. Those against, please raise your right hand.
And could we have these vote or my vote recorded, please, as being?
Okay. Is that it? You want yours recorded too, Tina and David? Okay. So the motion has been put and passed at 8-3. Thank you very, very much, everybody. I can assure you this will be a flexible working arrangement, and at least we can get started and start working with the recovery team who are ready to get there. They're wanting to get on and get the action plans and get the plan moving, and as they will say, it's their plan. The plan for all of us, will be very, oh, sorry, have I lost what's happened here? Can people hear me?
Yep.
That's David Holmes has done that.
I can hear it, but I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think, David, I think you did put something up, and there we are.
Normal.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just get on with it and do the best for our community. So thank you, everybody. I think that's all for this meeting. So thank you, everybody, for your attendance. Thank you to Kath and the staff. And I think we've got the audit committee is at 3 p.m. I think, Harriet, is that right?
Lynn, it's at 2 o'clock.
Oh, it's at 2. Okay, thank you very much. So we don't stay on this one. We'd come back out on another Zoom meeting. Is that correct, Harriet?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lynn.
It's closed.